In our next coaster review, we are talking about Cedar Point's B&M invert Raptor. This coaster dominates the Midway. It is known for its famous roar. It's a big, green, mean machine, and I love it. This is one of my favorite coasters at Cedar Point, but let's talk a little bit more in depth about it in this review. So first things first, we're going to get into the stats a bit. Raptor stands at a height of 137 feet, meaning it's actually one of the taller B&M inverts out there. A lot of them, like the Batman's, hover around 100 feet, so this one is a bit taller. It has a drop of 119 feet, and that is an angle of descent of 45 degrees, so it's not very steep at all. However, it is a fun drop because it's a bit different than most. You're going to kind of bank to the right and then straighten out and just continue building up speed enough to go through that first inversion. I have no complaints about the drop despite how its stats may not make it seem that impressive. It's not meant to be super steep. If you want a steep drop, there's a dive coaster right next to it. And we are looking at a top speed of 57 miles per hour. Which is a nice speed because it means that it powers through all of those elements. And because there are so many elements on this ride, it really uses up all that speed and it keeps the momentum going the entire time. And that is with a track length of around 3,700 feet. So let's talk about the elements on this ride. We're looking at a vertical loop, 0G roll, cobra roll, several bank turns, some corkscrews, and a strong double helix at the end. I actually really like Raptor's layout. It's not a typical B&M layout. They had a very long stretch of space to put this thing, but not very wide, and so they were able to fit it all in. And so you have lots of this green track just going everywhere. It's absolutely beautiful to watch from the Midway. I think there's a reason why this ride has become an icon for Cedar Point. Now, one of the main concerns with this is some people don't like it because they say it's rough or it's a headbanger. And me personally, I don't understand why exactly they think that. Every time I've ridden this, I haven't thought it was rough or uncomfortable. But then again, I also think that about Rougarou, and that definitely kind of gets more complaints than Raptor. But both of those rides, really, I think they're smooth. I mean, Raptor, if you just keep your head forward, you're fine. And that's kind of how you have to ride B&M inverts. If you know how to ride it, then it's super enjoyable. Just don't keep your head back and you're less likely to bang your head. If you keep your head forward on every B&M invert, then you're much more likely to enjoy the ride. And I say that because I speak from experience. Now, as you're watching this, one of the things that you'll probably notice is that in some footage, the ride looks a lot better than others. My first time riding Raptor was when it hadn't been painted in ages and it looked so ugly because there was like paint peeling off, there's bird poop everywhere. And then the following year, Raptor had this nice pretty paint job and it looked fantastic. So by far the ride looks a lot better now. And this is a coaster that I just make sure to get on every single time I go to Cedar Point. It does tend to get a bit longer of a line than normal. I think because it's towards the front of the park, a lot of people go here first. So if you come back around midday, you're probably going to find a shorter line. Either that or hit this up if you have a gold or platinum pass or are staying at the Hotel Breakers so you can get in before the park opens. But talking specifically about some of these elements, for the most part, I think that they're all good. When you're in that double helix at the end, I mean, it just keeps going and going that your legs start getting tingly. You are graying out. This is an intense roller coaster. Just know that. Especially during that end, you'll probably experience it gray out. Now, one of the downsides that I do not like is that after that double helix, it does kind of have a jerky moment where it slams you into the final brake run. That I'm not a huge fan of. It would have been nice if they could kind of smoothen that out so it isn't just kind of like a sudden jerk into the brakes. But everything else, I mean, I'm pretty fine with. The Cobra roll could be better, but I mean, on the plus side, at least it looks good. So for Raptor's final score, I'm going to give it an 8.5. I don't really have any complaints against Raptor. It's personally one of my favorite B&M inverts. I'd say probably top 3. Afterburn is personally my favorite, but for me, this is fighting between Banshee for number 2 spot. Between this and Banshee, you have two fantastic B&M inverts in Ohio, and they're both very different because this one is a lot more compact and Banshee is a lot more spread out. But you kind of get the point. I don't really want to talk about that too much longer just because this isn't meant to be a comparison video. We're just talking about Raptor. But those are just some of my thoughts on about it. I want to hear from you. What are your thoughts on Raptor? Are you one of those people that aren't necessarily a big fan of it, or do you like it? Let me know below, and of course stay tuned for more reviews here at Coaster Studios.